Hello and welcome to today's European SharePoint and Office 365 Community Webinar. My name is Shane and I am delighted to be joined by Dennis Hobmeyer, who will be talking to you about migration to SharePoint Online using the SharePoint Migration Package. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC16. Also, attend any webinar in September and your name will be entered into a draw to win a 3-day ticket to the European SharePoint Conference in Vienna, Austria. But hurry, hotels are filling up fast, so get booking. After this webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you have for Dennis in the questions window. Some questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and you will be notified by email when it is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter, Dennis Hobmeyer. Hello, Dennis. Hello, Dennis. Sorry.
Hi, thank you, Shane,
Hey,
for the
Dennis.
introduction.
Take it away, Dennis.
All right, so you should be able to see my screen at this stage.
Yep, that's great, Dennis. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, today's topic is all about migration, and some call it also high-speed migration. The details is a walkthrough, but I'm taking you with me within the next 60 minutes. Just to give you a little idea what we are looking at. So first of all, I'm giving you a little introduction of myself. Then we are looking at the challenges, generally speaking, have a look at the fast track service and also what kind of services Microsoft is offering in terms of migration, if you don't know already. And next is the do-it-yourself. So there's a PowerShell available, or even one step before. It's the first method or the first time possible that we can run a migration to Office 365 without any third-party tools. It wasn't possible before. Then we have a look at some general migration practices. I've also prepared a live demo, so I have some virtual machines running on Azure and of course an Office 365 account, where we are really doing hands-on and run a migration. And last but not least, I will have a look so that we have like 10 minutes left for questions and answers. So I will be happy if you're just writing your questions into the chat. And then we have a look at the end of the session. First of all, my name is Dennis Hobmeyer. I'm certified SharePoint MCSE. I have a private blog available and also my Twitter handle. I'm also speaking at the SharePoint European Conference in Vienna, so I will be on site and I would be really happy if we are also meeting there. The company I'm working for is Solutions to Share. It's ISV, which is offering a few apps like News Ticket on multiple documents are very popular and free in general. More than 13,000 apps and customers worldwide. So the challenge in general, why we are talking about migration. Not sure if video is working, but let's see if it works. I hope so.
Hi Dennis, just to let you know there's no audio coming in on the video track, just so you know that.
Thank you. So maybe then I'm doing just a little translation of it. So, well, we skipped the video, so it just shows the kind of that our world is changing and we are getting all more connected. And well, I think it's not completely new to you, so I won't start all over again. But some of the important challenges, especially in terms of migration, we are looking at on-premise and on cloud. So we are, on the left side, we have the on-premise, we have a long release cycle. And on the other side, Office 365 with a rapid innovation, very quick release cycle. It's really, I can recommend following the Office 365 book if you don't already do already. For example, new list and library experiences. In the past, we have to handle big data. The classic workplace is changing into a mobile workplace. We are connected through mobile devices, tablets. We can work from home. It's much more accepted today instead of workplace. And instead of reactive, we're getting responsive. So it's also it's a change for everyone, and the shift happens. And yeah, Office 365 is the perfect tool to accomplish all of these new challenges. So that's some of the general idea. So when we are talking about cloud and also the decision we are going to Office 365, how can we get the data into it? So because maybe just a few very less companies are starting from scratch and oh yeah, we have a new startup and oh yeah, okay, then it's easily new Office 365 subscription. Yeah, so typically large customers and have the challenge to get the existing data into it. So now I have a question to you. So we see a very cool Porsche. I'm not sure if you know German Autobahn. There's no speed limits at all, so you are illegal that you can drive this car on a German highway. So when we are comparing this against migration, I would like to know what do they share, migration and this car? First of all, this is a Porsche GT3. Just one is speed. The speed, in this case, the Porsche has 459 horsepower and from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.5 seconds. Maximum speed is 315 kilometers per hour. We're looking at migration. Speed is very important as well. And there has happened one of the major changes why it is the first possibility to run using the PowerShell. Before it was only possible through third-party providers which were using CSOM, but CSOM underlies resource throttling. The cool thing now is that there's no resource throttling using PowerShell, or also some third-party may use the same API as well. What else? It's all about money. There's, of course, costs are involved in migration as well. Just to remind you, the Porsche costs 130,000 euros. So it's really a lot of money. So this kind of migration, just from the tool perspective, is free. There are some temporary costs, which will be using Azure Storage in the back end, but it's just temporary. And yeah, as you know, Azure Storage is pretty cheap, like 100 gigabyte locally redundant. It's, I think, €2 something. And this using PowerShell, there are no license costs involved. And you can use it as a consultancy as well. Next. Yeah, one of the major reasons why we are here together, and I appreciate that you are taking the time to listen to me, and I hope that I can show you some new stuff. It's skills. It's all about knowledge. Of course, for instance, the Porsche, I wouldn't say I'm able to drive that one, because it's really like made for a racing track. And it's pretty much the same for migration. So we are talking about the technical details, and migration is always happening. It's pretty much a baseline. There's no peak now. It's always interesting for some customers. And when we are looking at the details and what we can migrate, we are looking at the bottom. So basically, I think I can use the laser pointer, especially here the green low area. So we are migrating from on-premise file system and on-premise SharePoint libraries to Office 365. But I've seen a lot of customizations and a lot of freaky SharePoint environments in my history. So just important to know that we are looking at these kind of migration, what is possible to migrate using PowerShell. So it's basically really the core data and some basic metadata like modified date and also who has modified files. There can be a lot of customizations, especially here in the middle and the upper area, which is very high in the effort which is needed to do so, and typically lasts in recoding. So it will not be part of this session. Microsoft Fast Track service. How can this help? Fast Track is a Microsoft service which you can, fasttrack.microsoft.com, and it helps you in the onboarding process. So customers which have at least 50 seats licensed in their Office 365 subscription are eligible to use this service. This service is remote only, so if the customers are expecting to be that they get someone on site, it isn't the case. In the core onboarding service, some general consultant is involved, like do they need to use Azure Active Directory Connect, security, how can they mitigate and migrate like mails, MX records, DNS infrastructure stuff, something like that. Pretty new, there's a data migration service, which you can see like here, for Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive for Business. And customers with more than 150 seats licenses in Office 365 are eligible to use this kind of service. When we are looking at SharePoint and OneDrive for Business, what kind of services are in it? Of course, file shares. When we have file shares as a source, we can use documents, file and folder structures, and migrate that. Box, which is not very popular in this kind, in the European area, so Box is typically seen in the European market. And there's some other source, SharePoint. No, it's not part of the migration service. It's not. So, and that's, I think, very important to know, because then it comes your part where you can help to migrate content. So destination is either SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business. The migration service Microsoft is offering migrates up to 75% of the tenant storage, while they include additional storage which you bought. They call it like a service to pre-provision SharePoint sites, because the structure where we are going to migrate into, it just needs to be present before migration, but it's typically a good idea to prepare that before. And you will get a migration report, so basically a report what has been migrated. And from the schedule, they are limited to 3 migration batches, so basically 3 jobs a single day, offering it 5 days a week. And it's there's a link available where they also include no files larger than 2 gigabytes, but some resources like these are also available at fasttrack.office.com/resources. And such a migration job or batch is also limited in size, a few gigabytes. So it's some kind of scalable on the through output. A lot of cool stuff is also available in here, so like general presentations, PowerPoints, email templates, what you can use to internally or for internal marketing to push your Office 365 project within the company. So I can really recommend to use those resources. Language specific, also some training material, cool stuff. So let's have a look on how we can use this migration service. There are some components involved into it. So we are using PowerShell, we are using Azure, and we are using Office 365, of course. Before we are dipping into that one, I'm just very quickly going through some general steps on the migration procedure. I typically recommend, of course, there's our preparation phase. There's a lot of communication you should involve in the very early phase. The earlier you involve the business owners and the actual employees, the better it is. It's also a very good idea to have a test environment, sure, but also a test tenant, a test Office 365. Use test data in the very first step to create a checklist and so that you get comfortable with the steps needed. Later on, also switch to use really production data because, as always, production is different than test. There might be some special characters which are used in the production, or some, another example. The good thing is like executables and stuff like that, it's allowed now in SharePoint, so we can put all the stuff into it. We don't care. Just if a program can occur using tilde, the file name, like the old Office 2003 file format. So it can occur an error, Last but not least, actually running the migration and get it signed off by the business. All right. How to get started? There are a few components available. The good thing is it's getting easier, like PowerShell.office.com. You get the most important components, like the SharePoint Online PowerShell module. If you have installed it already, please re-download it because it's also changing regularly. So also just be right before my presentation, I've just fixed a few PowerShell lines as, it's often that, some commands have been changed and stuff like that. So, of course, Office 365 tenant admin permissions to SharePoint, at least SharePoint, but that is fine. And setting up an Azure Storage account, which is located in the same data center as the Office 365 account. So just an example, if you have your Office 365 account hosted in like Amsterdam or that's West Europe or North Europe in Dublin, just choose one of those, West or North. I've also had a very detailed discussion about it. It doesn't matter, but it's just important that you use Europe, not US, for instance, so that data is moving, quite near. I can recommend use Storage Explorer. During the live demo, I will use all of those components, and then you see why we need this. And last but not least, the PowerShell script, what I'm explaining, I will share with you. So it's shared on GitHub, so you can easily reuse that code, because that's basically on the next slide. There are a few commands and scripts available, and it's, as often the details are the core to the success. From the procedure, first we have the source like file share, SharePoint on-prem. Then we're creating a package. The package is basically a set of, I will explain the next slide. This package basically is then uploaded to an Azure Storage, which is just used temporarily. So we can delete it after the migration. And here's what we call the high-speed migration, because that happens, the magic happens between step 3 and 4. The fourth step, it just kicks off one CSOM call to SharePoint saying, here, start the migration, and the content is stored in Azure. And then it pulls the content from Azure Storage and runs it without resource throttling. What's part of the package? The package is basically the content, the payload, and the manifest, it's a set of XML files describing basically how to transform URLs, security, and in the Azure Storage container, there's also a queue where we can have a look and have a brief overview onto the progress during the migration. After the migration, we will have a log file in this manifest on the XML set, also stored in the storage. The 4 commands which we are using, so it's new SPO migration package to create one. Then we are converting that one. That's used to, for instance, also to identify security mapping. Then we are uploading it. It says set, but it's uploading, and submitting is really starting the migration. I said there can be a migration mapping. Typically, I'm using 2 kinds of migrate, or you can 3 kinds. One, the easiest one, if you don't use it, if you have Azure AD Connect in place, so you have the same users in source and destination, that's the easiest, no question about it. The second, if the users are changing because you have like some, you are not carrying over the Active Directory from on-prem to cloud, then users are changing, then you can use a user mapping CSV file and convert on-prem sit to new UPN of destination. Or if you just keep it pure simple, there's a switch which says no, now it's called no Azure AD lookup, which just keeps the name without doing a mapping, so that you have the history available in SharePoint, so that you see this file has been changed by Dennis Hopmeyer, for instance, and not by the account you're using to migrate. So that can be some kind of useful. What about logging? There are few logs available, which are stored at, like the important ones are stored in Azure after the migration, and there are some .error and .warning files, so they indicate if you have any errors or warnings during the migration. So, for instance, if a file was skipped for some reason, or if it was already present in the destination, some kind of these stuff. All right, so at this stage, we are ready to have a look at my live demo. So, I hope you can see my remote desktop sessions. So I'm logged into Azure environment or Azure VM environment. And first of all, I just would like to quickly repeat the requirements, what we need. So what I have done, PowerShell.office.com, get started. Just use the Office Online services, sign in, and the SharePoint Online module. Both of them are installed. The second one is just a PowerShell module which you can import. Then I'm using the Azure Storage Explorer, where we can have a look at the file storage, the GitHub, directory where I'm sharing the files with you. The last two are the very important ones. One is for file share migration, the other one is for SharePoint migration as a source. Yeah, then I have a SharePoint on-premise environment, which is this one. And of course, I have Office 365 destination environment. And as I would like to go through with you from A to Z, I've also an Azure account. So yeah, let's get started. I've all put into a folder. So I've called it high-speed migration. I've extracted the GitHub directory so that all the PowerShell files. I have the prereq components, which I've already installed. And I think if we just use the editor, then it gets pretty clear what we are using. So yeah, I hope it should be large enough so that you can also see the important stuff. All right, so let's start with the, there are a few variables which we need to change, and the rest is basically dynamically, so all the PowerShell commands, what I've shown to you in the PowerPoint, they are above or below here. So let's change this as showcase. That's my tenant on Microsoft.com. Same here in this case, the site collection is the same. Where would you like to store that one? So let's create a new document library. So this is my site collection and destination at an app. Document library. I've just called it ESPC. ESPC is now empty. ESPC. So what about the source? What I have skipped here. So I have a file share available. So there's just like a typical IT file share, I would say, with PowerShell files, executables in there. So typically not really stuff you would really like to migrate to SharePoint, but yeah, Microsoft has turned off the file extension restriction, which is really, yeah, really comfortable. So yeah, I'm using that one as a source, and the package which is being generated, there's some output package and a package file. So I've created a migration directory and just created. I've done a test before, so I'm just deleting the content. So yeah, this is where the XML files, the package is being stored in. There are no, when we are migrating from file system, then the payload is being stored on file system. So it will not move to this package file. It's just pure XML. So just keeping sizing in mind. So with that kind, so yeah, what about storage? Just customize those names. It's the only thing what is important here that is unique. We have payload. If you're running multiple batches, I recommend that you have like project or like ESPC payload, ESPC migration package, and ESPC file system. It helps you to identify the content in Azure. I wanted to do it dynamic, but only lowercase are allowed in here, no spaces, no special characters, as those are getting created in Azure. So then an Azure account. So I've created, I'm logged into Azure portal already, so I'm creating a new storage account, new. So that one should be available. Yeah, that's fine. Resource manager, general purpose is fine. Performance, typically standard is fine. So that means 500 IOPS, and that's typically enough for like 60 megabytes throughput, which would be, if you have a good, very good internet connection, 60 megabits is fine. And you can run those migration in parallel. So if you have multiple storage accounts, multiple scripts, you can, multiple sources, multiple destinations, you can scale with that one. No encryption. Yes, encryption. Just using existing resource group, and my tenant is located in West or North Europe. So I'm choosing West Europe and create it. So while that one is, that one should be created pretty quick. So just switch to that one. So we need the storage account name and the storage key there. And from that point, we are fine. So that's all. And basically then I can start the migration from file system to SharePoint. So just to give you a very rough idea on the parameters. So we have the source files, sort of source file share. We say, okay, create XML files at some location. It's already verifying the target, so which is important because also the target must be accessible. The URL must be valid. The document library must exist. I have had during some projects, I had some errors here where, for some kind, URLs weren't correct. And also in this kind, I'm using the no Azure ID lookup. Then it's getting converted. It's we also credentials are verified, uploaded, and during the uploads, there's some kind of magic between those steps. It returns some URLs or some URI, and which for the kind of troubleshooting, I'm just using that one. And last but not least, it's kicking off all that stuff what we have created and say, yeah, start that kind of migration. All right, so deployment succeeded, perfect. Access keys. And don't worry, I'm changing or deleting the account afterwards. And the magic key. And just save it. All right, so from that point we are done. And I would say run that one. So it prompts me for my Office 365 credentials. Creating the package. Now it's uploading, and as this VM is running within Azure environment, there should be a pretty good upload speed. But well, I've just like 100 megabits of data, so that's very quick at all. So basically, this is the task which is taking time. And last but not least, while that one is uploading, we can have a look at the migration package. So we have some kind of XML files. Here's a log file if something got wrong. The output package, which is also having an additional log file for the conversion. For instance, the security mapping. Yeah, and we are done. Migration is running. But it isn't said that's finished already. So this comes to the point where we are using the Azure Storage Explorer. So I'm just adding my Azure account that I've just previously created. Okay, and here's the magic. So here we have the payload. No, not the payload, sorry, the XML file, so the package with the payload available. So see all the file names. And now in the middle of the progress, we have the queue available. The queue gets now updated. So if I just refresh that, we see that there are getting updates, job progress, job start. There's a warning, for instance. If you copy that one, well, during the migration, it's just a very, let's say, basic logging, but all the information is already in there, like the specified package does not contain security information request. Yeah, that's because I've set no Azure AD lookup. That's fine, that's expected. But no errors, that's fine. So look out for job start and job end. In the meantime, we can have a look at the library. So even if it's not finished yet, some files are already migrated, as you can see here. And it's also, that's what I've mentioned, when using the Azure AD lookup and different directory, it's keeping my original users, even if these users don't exist in the destination. So just giving you the idea on who has changed it. And also, very important, the original modified date, which wouldn't be the case if I'm just using drag and drop or upload button. Even if that one is now very easy using the new interface as well, but it will change to now and to the user who's uploading. All right, very good. I would say that we are checking back to that one a little later. We can just dip into the next step that we are using SharePoint on-premise stuff and migrating that one into SharePoint Online. It's very, very similar, but there are a few differences. First difference is that, well, now I'm connected as on a machine which can be any machine, so no SharePoint, can be admin, can be client, doesn't matter. When we look into the PowerShell directory, so I've separated PowerShell available in here. So just update the properties what we did already. So like the S2S showcase. Okay, then we see that's new. We are connecting to the admin URL or to the SharePoint admin. And what else? Yeah, Azure account. Yeah, like that. And the key. Yeah, accidentally copied it. Here we are using both normal SharePoint PowerShell and online PowerShell. So I think here's the clue. If we compare that, in file system migration, there's the new SPO migration package, and the next is conversion. In SharePoint, there's the export SP web, and then there's the conversion. And in the middle of this, we're connecting to the admin URL of SharePoint, which is really important. And there's no documentation about it on how to use those services, and it was really very kind of tricky to discover that. Also, it's some part the credentials are passed to it. So because we're using the export in here, I'm just commenting it for the moment. Because I have a separate script available to run on the SharePoint server. Before that, let's have a look on SharePoint on-prem. So I'm using the shared documents, and my site collection is migration source. And it's sites/migration source, shared documents, and as always, not the name, have a look on the URL. It's shared document, so the URL will be important in this case. So what else do we have? This will keep the same package. I just recommend to empty those folders. And yeah, file system migration, everything has been uploaded, everything is running. So from the moment it has uploaded, you can delete temporary folders locally. Destination is PC SharePoint. So that's something which we are going to create, a new library. That same site collection, which is called pre-demo. All right. And different names. If you're using the same names, nothing will happen. No? So very important. All right, perfect. So we have changed all the variables. There's one script available, the migrating. If you have a look at that, so I'm switching to the SharePoint server on-premise right now. Basically, it's just doing the export. So using just copy and paste those two. This will stay the same, so that's fine. It will use the SharePoint SP export. Just keep in mind, just running it. Just keep in mind that SP export is some kind of buggy. So there are a lot of known bugs within this API. It's not very good with customizations, like if you have like custom columns. So it could result in an error. So that's why it's a good idea to have the verbose logging and also check the export result. So yeah, the export result also now differs a little from the file share because we have the payload available, which is those stat files, and we have the XML files in the same folder available. So from that point, now we can go ahead and start with the SharePoint migration on-prem to online. So if you have a look in one of those details where we are converting the package, one of the most important details you could recognize that the source files path and the package files. So just to remind you, in the file share, that one was the payload, so the original file share UNC path, while the other one was just the XML files. And in this case, it's pointing to the same directory because it's one is the payload, the other one is XML, and it will extract it automatically. It's some kind of magic, but it works. The rest I think we have already discussed. So I'm running that one. Converting, uploading. So it's very similar. Just a little less payload in my case, and it has started the migration. So now what we also see, if we refresh the Storage Explorer, we're getting multiple blobs and queues. So that's another reason why each batch or each migration job should have its own one. So we have the SharePoint package available in here, and as you see, it has splitted the content automatically. SharePoint payload, sorry, that one. That files and the XML files. And on the other side, the queue. So again, it has been already started. Looks like this job ended. So it looks like it already has finished. The same should be for file system migration, probably. It's also displaying just the top one. So if the migration has been completed, like here, the log files is being put in this directory, like import.log.warning. And if there's an error, that is an .error file. So you can just download those files, just putting them to the desktop. So how does it look like? Yeah, a complete report of all files, success criteria, and last but not least, it also says warnings, errors, and if there's an error in the middle, you can't miss that. And you get also a very detailed stack trace. And the warning message, the one what we have seen as well, it just says, yeah, security information was not specified. True, expected. All right, so I recommend to keep those files. So later on, if business users are missing a file, since the migration, this file is missing, yeah, just for your own safety, you can have a look at the log file. Oh, it has been migrated. Maybe it has been accidentally deleted afterwards. So, but you're on the safe side, and that's the important part. All right, so let's have a look into our Office 365 environment. ESPC SharePoint, that's the last one what we have migrated from SharePoint on-prem. That looks very good. So about an hour ago, yeah, that's true, because if you compare that with my SharePoint on-prem, also refresh that one. Maybe you know that last minute preparation. Flyers and zip file, Brian Grow. And this user doesn't exist in my Office 365 environment, so it works in this case as well. And last but not least, to finish the live demo, the file system migration which we have started, it has been completed. A lot of files and folders are now present. And yeah, that's how easy it is. All right, looking at the time, looks very good. So to give you a very brief summary, you can use fast track services if you have at least 50 seats licensed, but the migration service is only for 150 seats upwards. And it doesn't cover SharePoint on-prem, and it's just a remote service. The PowerShell is the first possibility and the free possibility to migrate from from SharePoint on-premises to Office 365, and the costs are pretty less. It's just like only temporary. So as soon as the migration finished, like now, you can delete the Azure Storage. And last but not least, customizations. Well, it's not part of it, but files, the pure files, and the core functionality. All right. So I'm done from my side. Do you have any questions?
Great, Dennis. Thank you for a great presentation. Yeah, there are some questions here, so I'll start shooting them over to you. First question that we got in was in relation to what's the best way to migrate on-premise SharePoint 2010 sites to SharePoint Online, keeping permissions and metadata intact, perhaps using out-of-the-box and third-party tools?
Yeah, that's a good one. So typically for SharePoint 2010, to get it to SharePoint Online, so the native way would be you need to migrate it into a SharePoint 2013 first. From there, you can use like the PowerShell export SP web. It would cover the metadata. There's also third-party tools available, like SharePoint, for instance. They can also typically go ahead straight ahead from SharePoint 2010 directly to clouds, while they also use high-speed migration. But on the other side, you have license costs involved into that.
Okay.
I hope this answers your question.
Okay. SharePoint export site collection package, is there a size limitation?
There's a recommendation. I don't think it's really a fixed size, but they say it shouldn't contain files larger 2 gigabytes. And they say a single job, I think it shouldn't exceed 10 gigabytes. But I'm pretty sure I was running jobs which are larger than 10 gigabytes. But the reason why they are saying that, I think it could be hard to keep track of it and for reporting purpose. And typically during migration, you have some kind of restructuring. So, and you should use those possibility. Migration is always a chance to, for changes and to improve things. So restructuring from file system to SharePoint is typically a good idea.
Okay. Why did you use backup SPS site instead of export SP web?
The other way around.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's because of I know that backup SP site is much more stable. But yeah, there's no documentation to the commands available, and I think that there's some metadata they require just available through the export SP web. So, but I didn't have the chance to have such a detailed look into that one.
Okay. When you're converting sites with real content like custom content types, lookups, and managed metadata, will this type of content be migrated as well?
Yeah, that's... I can't promise it to you. As a general rule, if it comes with export SP web, then you have a very good chance. But to be honest, you can just give it a try. You can just use my PowerShell script, so you can getting started very quickly. From my personal experience, I was using that very much with file system to SharePoint Online, but rarely with SharePoint On-Prem to Online.
Okay. SharePoint On-Prem and SharePoint Online, do they have to be the same version?
No. So On-Prem I was using 2013, which is fine. I assume that 2016 is working as well, but I don't expect that 2010 is working. So for 2010 content, you need to migrate to 2013. Also, APIs and export formats are changing within those. So that's, and well, online is based on, or SharePoint 2016 is based on online, so yeah, that should be the same.
Okay. With the method outlined, can I migrate to info path form?
Oh, I don't expect that.
Okay. Last two questions for you, Dennis, and then we'll let you go. How much does it cost to use Azure during migration?
Well, the PowerShell scripts are for free, and the actual costs are just the Azure costs for file storage. So let's assume that we have like 500 gigs to migrate, and if we are uploading them like 60 megabytes per second, you get those content very quickly into Office 365. So that you only need to store those 500 gigabytes maybe just for a few days into Azure, then you can delete these accounts. So it's 100 gigabytes, it's €2 locally redundant, and there's no high availability needed for this temporary putting data there, so costs are really minimal.
Okay. Dennis, if people have any more questions, can they get in contact with you directly?
Yeah, sure, please. If you have any feedback, you can use my Twitter handle or get through you or use my email or, well, you can stalk me, so I'm available on any social network.
Okay, great, Dennis. Dennis, thank you so much for your time today. That was a really great presentation and a great demo. Looking forward to catching up with you in Vienna in November.
Perfect. Thank you. It was a pleasure, to hold that. And also thank you to all attendees sharing your time with me. And hopefully you have learned and could take a few parts away. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Dennis. Take care. Okay, everybody. So for more top quality training from the world's best speakers, such as Dennis, look no further than Vienna for the European SharePoint Conference. See SharePointEurope.com for full details. Also, for anyone that has attended a webinar this week as part of Training Week in September in 2016, you will be entered into a draw to win a 3-day ticket to the European SharePoint Conference in Vienna. We will be announcing this on Twitter later. Okay, so that is it for now. Join us again for our next webinar on Thursday, September 29th for What is the Right SharePoint Deployment Option? Thank you and goodbye.